Hi, I'm Elisa Marie, and welcome to Yoga for Hypermobility. If you're a bendy bitch like I am, and you're really good at yoga, this is for you. I have been hypermobile my whole life, but didn't get diagnosed with EDS until a couple years ago. And I've been practicing and teaching yoga for a very long time, and I didn't realize how many of the things that I was doing, that I was taught to do, and that I just learned through repetition were actually harming my body. I believe that yoga is so good for us. I believe that yoga could change the whole world, beyond asana. And I believe that yoga is for any body. When we're talking about asana specifically though, it is really important to protect the joints. And you hear a lot of very experienced yogis ending up having to have shoulder surgery, hip surgery, injuries. And some of that is from that repetition and use. A lot of it is because many of us that are drawn to yoga are drawn to it for a reason. When I went into my first yoga class, I was like, easy, I can do this. My poor little hyperextended knees the entire time, but I can touch the ground. I can get into full standing bow. And it feels good. It feels good to be good at something like that. The problem is that then we're not protecting those joints, and we're using them over and over. We're doing the same types of movements over and over, completely collapsing into the body, and the joints are what's taking the brunt of that. And for us with connective tissue disorders, those joints need extra support and stability. So we're gonna go through a pretty simple flow where I'm going to specifically, very actively cue you and about engagement and about hypermobility. I own Burn+Bloom Body Movement Studio in Anchorage, Alaska. I have online classes, I have a yoga school, and I'm working on a new yoga for hypermobility course that's coming out soon. I cue hypermobility a lot because I would say more than half of my students come in, whether they're diagnosed with something or not, they tend to lean a little bit hypermobile. I'm always cueing for hypermobility. So if you do take my other online classes, you'll hear them throughout, but this I wanted to create specifically for hypermobility because some of these things you can take with you into every practice. And then you can feel more confident and more strong in your practice, knowing that if you go into a class, even if they're not cueing for hypermobility, you know how to best support your body. Okay? So let's get started. We're gonna start in a child's pose today. Child's pose, knees out wide, sinking the hips back to the heels, taking a moment to soften into the belly, resting the forehead to the mat. Reaching the hands forward, walking the fingertips a little bit further, and then drawing those shoulders down away from the ears. Thinking about actively drawing the elbow or the shoulders in to support that shoulder girdle. And you can even see here, if you want to feel what it feels like to reach so that the shoulders are out, no longer stable as they're reaching forward, shrugging, versus when you draw them in to the body. As we press into the palms, we'll begin to tuck the chin to the chest, round the spine, and roll up to a tabletop position. In table, hips are stacked over knees, shoulders are stacked over wrists. Now, I like to keep my toes tucked all the time. Part of that, there's some hypermobility in those toes. However, when I feel like I can actively engage in the feet versus this, that helps me. Notice what happens if I'm here in table. Yeah, this is so easy. I don't know, what are we supposed to be doing here, right? My elbows are reaching forward, I'm collapsing into my shoulders, my feet are floppy, my tailbone's up, I'm arching my back without even meaning to, right? So let's start with our foundation at the palms. Fingers spread wide, gripping into the fingertips. Press the palms away. Push the ground away. Notice what happens with the shoulders. And even do this a couple rounds to really feel, again, this, where the shoulder blades are squeezing in together, versus this. You're spreading the shoulder blades away from one another, pushing the ground away. Now check the elbows. Are they still rotated forward? Draw the elbows out wide and back as you wrap the biceps forward. So more support in that shoulder girdle Micro bend into the elbows, and then tuck the toes. And see what changes when you tuck the toes and you push the ground away a little bit, even with the knees. Pushing, pushing, pushing. Good. Now draw the navel up towards the spine. Slightly lift the tailbone up. So we're not rounding all the way. We're not going into cat-cow right now. Just in this table, slight lift, creating a little bit more space in the belly. Something that I like to do when I'm in table is I like to tuck the toes, lift the knees up, feel that engagement, and then rest the knees back down without completely collapsing into the hips and the knees. The knees are about hip width apart. Sometimes it can help to use a block in between, but you want to feel actively engaged. Think about drawing those inner thighs in. You should feel the glute turn on. That is what we want. Now this pose versus this, a lot more challenging. Even just holding table, feeling that strength in the core. Thinking about the corset around the waist, pushing the ground away, keeping those elbows slightly bent, light on the knees, light on the wrists. Good, now that is a strong tabletop position. From here, hover the knees up once again, lift, and then push those hips high into down dog. And take a moment, maybe your heels reach all the way down, but instead of reaching the heels all the way down, first bend into the knees slightly. Lift the tailbone up higher. Press the ground away, and then draw those shoulders away from the ears. Think about reaching the top of the head towards the thumbs. Space in the shoulders and the neck, keeping the neck long. Drawing those elbows, again, out and back, slightly wrapping the biceps forward. So the biceps are framing the ears. You should even feel this a little into the chest. Little by little, bringing the heels down, but keeping that bend into the knees. I think it might be one of the most annoying things when a teacher says down dog is a resting pose. It is supposed to be a resting pose, but that doesn't mean that it's passive. It's still very active. You should still be pushing the ground away, feeling strong. Now, as you shift forward into your plank position, you might need to wiggle the heels a little bit. In plank, shoulders are over the wrists, heels are over the toes. Same as our tabletop position, pushing the ground away, being mindful of those elbows, wrapping the elbows back. I'm going to do this with my knees down first because I do want you to see that with our knees down, we can still keep a very strong core in our chaturanga. Elbows tight, lowering all the way down. Now those elbows stay tight to the ribs. Lower, 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 lower. Press into the tops of the feet. Anchor into the pubic bone. Pull the heart forward. Feel this little shift front to back. Pull the heart forward and then begin to lift into cobra. Elbows in. Baby cobra to start. Elbows tight. Gaze to the top of the mat. Shoulders away from the ears. This is enough. We're not here. We're not shrugging and collapsing, cranking on the low back, chin up. Oh, beautiful, cobra. No, we're here. Takes a lot more strength. The shoulders are right over the hands. Elbows tight. And release. Push it back to child's pose. Tuck the chin round the spine. Table. We're moving through this a little bit quicker, but taking time. Check the form. Start with your foundation. Fingers, palms, shoulders, elbows, toes tucked, knees hover, down dog. All the little adjustments, bending into the knees, feet are hip width apart, maybe even a little bit wider. Lifting the tailbone up. Shift forward to plank. Shoulders over wrist, heels over toes. Now, this is not plank, okay? And this is not chaturanga. And that's why if you do not have the strength with your knees down to lower all the way back and up, there's no way that you're going to be able to lower with your knees up. So that's why we work on, with our knees, working on those tricep push-ups. It's still very, very hard. But when we're in plank here, and we're here, and we're here, and we go into chaturanga, and it's that. There's no strength and there's no form there. And so then we're never building the muscles to eventually get it. So start with the knees. If you feel like knees are easy, do one knee. One knee down, one knee up, elbows tight, lower. But for full chaturanga, fingers spread wide, pushing the ground away, micro bend in the elbows. It's almost like you're pushing, it's not here. We're not collapsing into the hips, sinking into the shoulders. Shift forward, light on the feet, elbows in, slowly lower. Elbows tight to the ribs the entire time. Down, press into the tops of the feet, cobra. Shoulders down, elbows in. Maybe you want to explore lifting. Elbows are still bent. At no point are we ever here. Think about creating space in the low back. That's how we do that little shift forward. Space in the belly, anchoring into the tops of the feet, and release. Child's pose. Tabletop. Tuck the toes, knees up, down dog. Left heel lifts. As you lift the leg, watch the toes. No external rotation. We're not going up as high as we can possibly go. It's beautiful. It's great for a photo. It's not the form that we want. Leg is straight. From your tailbone to the heel, shooting straight up. Think about energetically shooting up, keeping the toes down. Think about when we're in plank pose, the toes are facing down, right? We don't come into plank and with that external rotation. And usually we're going from plank to three-legged dog to crescent, which is where we're going next. So we want to keep those toes down, actively thinking about internal rotation. You're not actually fully internaling, but most people are going external. So drawing in, and then pulling the knee into the chest, rounding the spine, pushing the ground away, and bringing that knee all the way into the chest, planting the foot. Your foot, and if you aren't able to get it, it stops about center here, that's okay. Use your hand to bring it closer so that the knee is stacked directly over the ankle. Bring the right knee down. I'm going to use blocks here. I always recommend using blocks. We love blocks. In our low lunge, I keep my back toes tucked. Again, if you're here, that's fine, but see what happens for me when I'm here versus I tuck the toes and I lift up slightly. You can go deep. I believe you. I know you can go way deeper, but that's not really the goal here, because for a lot of people, yoga is good for stretching and going into depth. You're already bendy, so we don't necessarily want to go as far as we can possibly go. This is doing nothing for me except hurting my hip eventually. I've had hip surgery, so it's hurting my hip now. But over time, you may be like, oh, that doesn't hurt me. Over time, it will. Tuck the toes, engage. That also supports that back knee. Lift up slightly, 10%, just 10%. I'm still deep. I've still got my knee stacked over my ankle, but now I'm actually working here to support and stabilize the hip. I can bring my hands to blocks, I can bring it up. My chest is stacked over my hips. I'm not leaning forward. I'm not arching here, pushing my belly out. Draw it in. Open. Good. Bring the hands down. Now moving into half splits. Shifting the hips back. Hips stop over the knee. If they come back here, it's too far. So the hip stops over the knee. Straighten that left leg. Ground into the heel. Lift the toes. Pull that hip into the socket. So think about drawing that leg up into the body. We're going to start here, flat back, strong core. Think about drawing the ribs to the hips. When you blow, like you're blowing out a candle, engaging that core. Micro bend in the knee. We're not locking here. Micro bend. You might not even be able to see your bend, but you can feel it. Pull the heart forward. Lift, 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 and then work on hinging. Maybe walking the blocks forward. Keeping that tailbone back. Sometimes it can help to add a tiny little external rotation to the left toes to really draw that hip into the body. Soften into the shoulders, elbows in. Now begin to bend into that left knee, plant the foot. We're just going to add a little bit of movement here, shifting forward and back. Now here, you may be able to go a little bit deeper without feeling much. That's why I really like to keep my feet flexed, toes tucked and lifted, because that helps me feel a little bit more. But again, you're not trying to go to your full end range. When we're moving through and we're moving with our breath, we're just moving through. We're just lengthening the muscles in the body, feeling that stretch without feeling a strain. Now shift forward, plant the foot, lift the back knee, and straighten into both legs. We're stepping the right heel up slightly, pivoting the heel in. So our heels are in alignment about center of the mat. The back toes are open diagonal. What's happening here, bring your hand to your hip, your back hip. Notice where it's at. I'm really congested in that front hip, right? That left side is feeling really congested, but I'm opening up here. But in pyramid pose, we actually want to draw that hip down and draw the left hip back. What can help here, I want you to see from this angle. So this is like what was happening. If I bring my thumb into the hip crease, draw that hip back. So you're wrapping the hip back. Tailbone towards the back of the room, wrapping that right hip forward, and then pulling the heart forward. I like to start my pyramid with a strong pyramid. Heel grounded, toes lifted, back flat. So you'll notice you can, and sometimes we do, soften into pyramid. But for our bodies and our joints here, especially in the hips, strength is our friend. So we push off that back ball of the foot. Wrap that right heel forward, or right hip forward. The hip follows the toes. Reach the heart forward, flat back. Hands to blocks or fingertips to blocks, but if you're hypermobile, be careful of those little flexy fingers. Actively flexing, pulling the leg into the body. You should get fatigued here. It's a strong posture. Good, plant that foot. Back heel pivots up. We're bending into that front knee, stepping the right foot up, feet hip width apart. Feet hip width apart, bend into the knees. I cannot stress this enough. You should never, ever be in a forward fold with your knees locked. I don't care if you can plant your palms. Bend, bend, bend. And when you slightly bend into the knees, think about engaging the glutes, engaging the inner thighs. See what happens here if I'm here versus slight bend and I wrap out, like I'm wrapping those femurs in to the body, shooting the tailbone back, okay, in that forward fold. Now maybe you plant the palms with bent knees. Awesome. It's not necessarily the goal. So we keep that strong forward fold. Bend into the knees even more as you tuck the chin, round the spine, gently roll all the way up. Tadasana. Tadasana, feet are hip width apart. Again, micro bend into the knees, drawing those femurs in, engaging the inner thighs, glutes turned on. Shoulders down, palms forward, reaching the fingertips. Mountain pose is not just here, right? It's a strong posture. Again, holding this for a long time should make you feel fatigued. Grounded into the feet. If you tend to collapse in, press to the outer edges of the foot. I'm extremely flat-footed, so I'm always actively creating that arch. Grounded into all four corners of the feet. Good. Now as you bend the knees, sweep the arms forward, chair pose, sitting the hips straight back. Knees in alignment with the hips, in alignment with the ankles, not collapsing in, not too wide. Hips back, reach forward. Now here, we're not arching, and we're not collapsing forward. We're sitting back into a chair and then lifting diagonal spine. I like to bring my hands to heart in a lot of chair because I feel like that extension can sometimes wear on my low back. So if bringing your hands to heart helps you to really focus on the lower body first, do that. Take the stress of the upper body out of it. Pressing into the palms, ground it into the heels. Feel those glutes engaged. Sink back into the heels. Engaging the inner thighs. Thinking about energetically, externally rotating. You're not moving anything, but you're opening up into the knees without moving them to feel that activation, inner thighs and glutes. Inhale, lift. Micro bend, exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back, palms to shins, crown of the head forward. Lengthen the spine. Body's parallel to the ground. And release. Plant the palms, step it back to plank. Find that strong plank pose, move through your chaturanga, knees down, if you need, all the way. Pressing into the tops of the feet, anchor the pubic bone, pull forward, and lift. Cobra. Release. Now maybe you want to come back through child's pose and table. Maybe you're ready to push up through plank as we transition. If so, tuck the toes, push, strong body, one straight line, up, down dog. And when we go through our flow, I always tell my students there are many options, many avenues to get where we're going. You're always free to explore and to pause wherever you need. Coming back to that strong down dog, roll the shoulders, draw the elbows in, lift the tailbone. Right heel lifts, watch those right toes as they lift, no external rotation, lifting as high as you can without opening the hip. Pull the knee in, round the spine, plant the foot, left knee lowers. Low lunge, using the blocks here, knee stacked over ankle. Slightly diagonal, opening up that left hip crease, but not crunching into the right. So grounded into that foot, engaged into the inner thigh, lifting into the body, arms up. Good, hands down. Shifting back, finding half splits to start. Bring the hip back over the knee, and then wiggle that front heel forward. And as you wiggle, draw it back into the body. See what happens with my hip as I reach it forward, then in. Keeping those hips stacked. Stacking our joints is incredibly important when we have hypermobility. Giving our joints any extra support. So again, think about lifting the heart. Shoulders down, light on the hands. You're not collapsing here, you're not struggling. You're certainly not pushing the elbows forward. A little bend. If you need to walk the blocks back closer to stay more upright, you can. If you want to walk them further, soften. Soften without rounding and tucking. Grounded in that heel, pulling the toes back towards the body, really feeling that stretch into the calf. All of our activation and flexing help us to actually feel the stretch a little bit more. So it's not only protecting the joints, it's also helping us deepen into the stretch. Because some of these things, if you're here, you're just like, I don't feel anything here. Yeah, flex, push, engage, feel that resistance. Add a little extra work. Because not only do we need flexibility and mobility, but when we are hypermobile, we really do need the strength. And yoga asana can offer a lot of strength. So weaving strength into your practice is incredibly important. Now we'll add a little bit of movement as you bend into the knee, lowering into the hips, not collapsing, lowering with control, pulling back. And then as we shift forward, planting the foot, back knee lifts. We straighten into both legs, but that back heel is high. So we step the back foot up slightly, pivot the heel in and down. Heels are in alignment. Now, if you're collapsing into that back foot, Create an arch by straightening into the leg, grounded into the heel. The thumb can come to the hip crease, drawing that hip back, wrapping that back hip slightly forward, flex the foot, pull the heart, tabletop with the spine. Shoulder stacked over wrist, not hyperextending, light on the hands, slight bend into the elbows. Plant the foot, back heel pivots up, walk the blocks forward, step the foot up, feet hip width apart, forward fold. Maybe grabbing opposite elbows, adding a little sway. Tuck the chin, round the spine, roll it up. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, fold, keeping that micro bend all the way down. Flat back. Plant the palms, plank, chaturanga. Moving through, taking time, cobra. Now, if you're feeling ready for upward facing dog, press into the tops of the feet, push the ground away. The thighs are up off the ground, but again, we're not collapsing. It's the same upper body as cobra, pulling the heart forward, strong core, pressing into the tops of the feet. From here, push, 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 down dog, or child's table, down dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Watch the toes. Exhale, knee to chest. Plant the foot. Inhale, arms up. High crescent. Same type of form as our low crescent. Lifting that back kneecap up towards the ceiling. Front knee stacked over the ankle. Shoulders stacked over the hips. Hands to heart. Back heel pivots, opening warrior two. Now in warrior two, we're lengthening the tailbone down, slightly tucking the pubic bone forward, so maybe even coming to the hips and feel that little rotation. What happens when we twist from high crescent to a warrior two is that we can often tweak that knee in. What we want to do when we lengthen the tailbone down, draw the pubic bone forward, wrapping that right hip a little more forward. It's not actually wrapping forward, but energetically pushing it, and that knee opens. Also, if you notice that then your knee is here, that ankle, foot should wiggle forward so that when you sink into your warrior two, the knee is stacked. Chest stacked over hips. Your front heel may be at the back foot like a T. It may be a little bit more like heel to heel alignment. That really depends on your body. But either way, back foot parallel to the back of the mat, front toes forward, knee over ankle. Not just here, but here. And then think about when we're in warrior two, blowing out the candle and bracing the core, drawing the hips towards the ribs. And we'll really notice this as we reach and reverse. Right hand to the left hip, forearm towards the low back. And what happens is we often go like this. Oh yeah, arch in the back. You should see this from this angle. Yes, so deep, so beautiful. Instead, watch that knee. Lengthen the tailbone down, draw the pubic bone slightly forward, ribs towards the hips. Whew, that's a lot harder. When we're opening here, we're opening and leaning from the chest, but not pushing the belly forward. Now straighten into that leg without locking the knee. Don't let it snap. Straighten, but not to the end range. Engage that quad. Reach the left hand forward. Find your block. Inside of the ankle, hand to block, right arm lifts. Now this looks straight. I am keeping a micro bend because my hyperextension is there. Micro bend. When you micro bend, engage the quad. Right arm reaches back and up. And also watch that elbow. Micro bend. I probably say micro bend more than any other word ever. Beautiful. We're going to bring the right hand down to the block, pivot the toes, forward fold, wide fold. Taking a moment here, maybe bring the forearms down. Bending into the knees, side to side, even in that wide fold, micro bend. And then we'll use that block, walk it over to the right foot, pivot the toes out. So we're going to switch sides, facing directions, starting with that warrior two, block inside. Check the form, might need to wiggle. I'm only 5'1", and I take up a lot of space on my mat. So if you're any taller than 5'1", you should be taking up even more space on that mat. Feeling that extension, shoulders down, gazing over the middle finger, actively opening up that knee. Notice if you're leaning yet. We're not leaning until we're intentionally reaching forward. Strong warrior two, engage that thigh. Reach, lean, 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 flip, reverse. Forearm to the low back, lengthening that tailbone down, slight tuck of the pubic bone. Grounded in that back foot, leaning, but feeling that strength in the abs. Hand to the block. Straightening into that leg, reaching up, triangle pose. Micro bend. Feel that length, pushing the block away. You may be able to do this. I see this a lot. Great, what's happening here? Not a whole lot. The knee is completely locked out. I'm leaning forward. I'm shrugging into my shoulder. There's no strength here. The joints are screaming, and if you're not feeling them scream now, they will be soon. So that's why we want to use the block and stay lifted. This is a much deeper pose for me because I have that bend in the knee. I'm lifting, pushing the ground away. There's no collapsing. There's strength here. Good. And reverse, bending into the knee. Reaching, warrior two, back arm sweeps forward and up, finding that high crescent, pivoting the back heel, knee over the ankle, space in the hip crease, strong in that front leg, reaching up. Back heel is high, and if it's not, wiggle it back a little bit further. Hands down. Front leg sweeps back and up. Shift to plank. Chaturanga, moving through. Cobra, upward facing dog. Check the form. Down dog. Right heel lifts. Knee to chest. Plant the foot, high crescent. Now reach forward, finding your one block. Sweep the left leg up, finding warrior three, just for a moment. We're not here for long. Straight leg, toes down, hip square. It's not this. That hip bone should be shining down. Pull the knee in as you lift the chest. One-legged mountain pose. Flexing into the foot, flexing into the heel, lifting the toes, like you're slamming the heel down, stomping the ground. The knee is 90. We bring our ankle to thigh, figure four, hands to heart, sitting back into that chair. And when we're in figure four, we're actively opening up that knee to create more space into the hip crease. Find the balance first, flex the foot, open the knee. Hips are even, we're not collapsing. Hands to heart, hold. Bring the hands down to the block. Take a moment here. And then pull that knee in and up. Sweeping back into high crescent. Toes down, chest up. Hands to heart, warrior two. We're moving a little bit quicker. Inhale, straighten, lift. Don't let the knee snap. Exhale down. 2 more. Straighten, lift the toes. Wide fold. Hands to the outsides of the ankles. You can grab that block and bring it back up to the top of the mat. That's where we're moving. Hands down, bend into the knees, tuck the chin around the spine, roll it up. Arms lift. Pivot the left toes open, bend into the knee. Warrior two, and you may need to adjust. If you shift down into that warrior two and the knee is past the ankle, wiggle. Strong warrior two, inhale, lift. Use the breath, don't let the knee snap, exhale. Again. Hold warrior two. Taking a moment here. As the back arm sweeps forward, back heel lifts, high crescent. Taking a moment to adjust. In our high crescent, our feet are on different tracks, so we're not trying to balance on one line. You can see that back foot is in alignment with the hip. Good. From here, hands to heart. Shift forward, bring your hands down to that block as you float the back leg up, warrior three. Hips square, toes facing down. Pull the knee in, lift the chest, 90 degrees, engaged. We're not just here. Lifting that knee, flexing the foot, standing tall. Figure four, ankle to thigh, open the knee, hands to heart. If you open the knee, but you're really opening from that tweak in the hips, think about keeping the hips even and just pushing the knee open, creating more space here. That's what this is about. That's what yoga is about. More connection, more space in the body. Bring it up. Back. Warrior three. Toes down, plant the palms, sweeping the left leg up. Shift to plank. Our final chaturanga. Take your time with it, elbows in, shift forward light on the toes, lower. Last cobra, chest up, release. Child's pose, hips to heels. Round the spine, roll it up table, press the palms. Toes tucked. Bring your block between your thighs. Keep the toes tucked. Squeeze that block. Feel that strong tabletop. Maybe even hover the knees. See how that feels. Lower the knees. Walk the hands forward. Puppy pose. Maybe forearms down. Maybe forehead to mat. Keep lifting that tailbone up. Squeezing the block in. Walk the hands back. Plant the palms. Keep the block where it is. Right arm, hands to shoulder, open up, twisting from the midsection, the spine and the upper body. Twist, open the arm, and as you thread through, keep squeezing that block. Thread the arm all the way through, shoulder down to the mat, pressing into the left hand and twisting. Twisting without tweaking into the hips and without pulling back. That's why we really like to keep the toes tucked here so that we can actively push the ground away. Leaning into that shoulder to the side of the head. Keeping the hips centered. And release. Open, let it go. Other side, grounded in that palm, micro bend in the elbow, pushing the ground away. Hand starts at the shoulder as we rotate, twisting open, squeeze the block, extend, thread through. Leaning forward so the head comes down to the mat. Notice if your hips starting to shoot out to the side, create space in the waist by pushing the tailbone behind you. And release, unthread, and let that go. Removing the block, coming back to seated, shifting your hips to the side, extending the legs out in front of you for your forward fold. Micro bend in the knees, and maybe even putting a little blanket under the knees might help here. Flexing into the feet. Inhale, lift, flat back, straight spine. Exhale, hinge forward without rounding and tucking. When you're flexing, you're feeling that strength, you might not be able to go as deep. Pulling the heart forward, drawing the shoulders back. Working on keeping that flat back. Grab your blocks, bringing them back to the side, plant the feet, shift the hips forward, feet grounded, one block between the knees, feeling that engagement here, feeling strong, reach forward, palms up slowly, one vertebra at a time, scooping up the belly as we release all the way down. Walking the heels back a little bit closer to the glutes. Keeping that block between the knees, press into the palms, lift the hips, bridge pose, and you have another block that you can bring under the sacrum to support for a supported bridge, but keeping the block between the knees so that we still have that active engagement in the lower part of the body. The glutes can soften. I love supported bridge for my low back, SI pain, so this can feel really nice without collapsing into the knees. To remove, press into the heels, slide the block out, lower the hips, grab the other block. Pull the knees into the chest, reaching the arms around the shins, forehead to knee, big squeeze, drawing everything in. And release. Extending up, a little shake, circling the ankles and the feet. Let it go, and then we'll bring our feet together, knees open, using the blocks for butterfly. Chances are, if you're hypermobile, you can open up those knees all the way to the ground. We don't want to do that, particularly when we're resting in a pose like Shavasana. So instead, we use the blocks, even if you can open them, so that we're not going to the end range and we're completely supported. Bringing your hands to your belly, taking a moment. Coming back to center, coming back to the body. Noticing what you feel. And honoring whatever it is that comes up, particularly if something here has challenged a way that you've been doing it. Sometimes that feels frustrating. Relearning something is frustrating. But we want our yoga practice to work with us, to support us. We want our asana practice to be strong. to support the rest of our yoga. And we want to take care of our bodies, protect our joints and our connective tissues. And so if that means relearning some things, then we can do that and we can feel frustrated through it. Come back to the breath, the power that you hold within you. Remembering that we move with gratitude and love and appreciation for this one body that we get. Take an inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Let it go. If you have time and you want to stay here a little longer, you can push pause and stay here as long as you'd like. And if you're ready, you can begin to roll to your side. Use your hand to support that knee up and over, protecting the groin. And then use your hands to gently push yourself up to seated. At the end of our practice, we inhale, arms up. Exhale, sweep the arms back. Let it go. Again. Last one, take what you need, set down what you don't. Hands to heart. Thank you for practicing with me. At the end of our practices, we seal our practice by slapping the ground 2 times to honor ourselves, each other, and the burning and blooming on our mat and in our lives on my cue. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you for moving with me. I hope that this challenged you and helped you feel a little bit more connected with your body, maybe aware of some things that you weren't necessarily paying attention to. I want you to practice yoga well beyond these years into the next, and I want to protect your body and your joints. So if you're hypermobile, be mindful of your movement. Yoga is still good for you. It's not that it's bad for you, as some people say. It just means that we have to do it a little bit differently. See you next time.